Now, as South Africans eagerly await the fate of their president, Jacob Zuma, as the country's statesman, Business Leadership South Africa has strongly condemned the legacy of state capture, which it attributes to the president. After an unprecedented postponement of South Africa's State of the Nation address, CNBC Africa's Aviwe Mtila spoke to Business Leadership South Africa CEO Bonang Mohale this afternoon, who gave a strongly worded critique of the legacy left by the country's democratically elected president.
With Rolihlahla Nelson Mandela, we inherited a technically bankrupt South Africa. So the old National Party stole like it's getting out of fashion. From Alexco, the diamond mine, the properties that were registered in government's names, from the Swiss Alps to the French chateaus, to many properties, farms that were owned by government, that were just given to Afrikaners. And Mandela turned that around. We became the most respected country in the world. Then we had Thabo Mbeki, an effective administrator who gave us 43 consecutive quarters of positive GDP growth. We added 500,000 families onto the middle class on average a year, every year. The number of students in institutions of higher learning moved from 500,000 to 1.2 million people. So you can see that we were making money. But South Africans were working tall, they were proud, we were sharing, we were even intermarried. Soweto, the biggest township, 3.5 million, bigger than Namibia, Lesotho, Botswana, and Swaziland, and started to prosper. And then Jacob Zuma came in. The GDP growth that he inherited December of 2007 at 5.4 is now below 0.1. In the last 10 years, we likely have been growing at 3%. The last 48 months, we're not touching 1 percentage point. It's under his administration that for the first time in the history of this country, we got the 3 ratings agencies rating us below investment grade, junk status. When he inherited an ESCOM that had a rating agency higher than sovereign when Dr. Ruel Khoza was the chairman. This ESCOM that used to produce electricity cheaply and sold it cheaply to other African countries in the SACU economic zone now needs to go cap in hand to the PIC asking for 5 billion just to tie them over for the month of February. So you can see the state capture is a legacy that this president has left us.
You mentioned a number of firsts under President Jacob Zuma's leadership. There was also a first that we just saw a couple of days ago where the State of the Nation address has been pushed back to a later undisclosed date yet. As the captain of Business Leadership South Africa, what does this indicate to you and what does it indicate to your CEOs?
So if we could be indiscreet for a moment and dare to even compare the administration of Thabo Mbeki and of Jacob Zuma. The one was statesman-like, because when his own party said, "We have lost faith in you," Mbeki had control of the army and the intelligence. He said, if my own movement says they've lost faith in me, I don't want one person to be inconvenienced as a result of that, let alone one life to be lost. I will resign. And he resigned. This president, the 58 million South Africans have told him that, go home. We've had enough of you. Go. And he's saying, I'm refusing. His actions have always been about me, myself, I. Never in the best interest of the country. Never in the best interest of the ANC. Always about Jacob Zuma and his acolytes, the Gupta brothers. That is the difference. The tragedy here is that we had gathered a wonderful momentum during the 54th elective and policy ANC conference. That gave us the top 6, a choice of the people. Because of that, the rand breached the 12 rand to the dollar mark to show that the foreign direct investors, the analysts, the international community is giving us credit for having held it on time and successfully. That we have always had country elections on time and successfully, and they've always been independent, free and fair. But also they gave us the benefit that Cyril, when he came in, he gave us the proof points of somebody who's got an agenda that wants to act. The Independent Judicial Commission of Inquiry was instituted. The asset forfeiture unit sprang into action. The 1.6 billion was frozen. The Irene Friede farm was raided, so is the offices of the Premier of the Free State, the current Secretary General of the ANC. The Hawks went to Eskom and said, we want to find out about this Tegeta mine, the coal mine contract, to see that there is nothing untoward. But most importantly, we had a new Eskom board. He told us on Thursday, on Saturday it was announced, 13-member board, not of ANC deployees, but of effective, efficient professionals who have started companies, who know the difference between income and cash, who've run complex entities, who understands the difference between generation, distribution, and transmission. That electricity is the fourth means of production, that when Eskom goes down, all the state-owned enterprises will go down. Therefore, the South African economy is going to go down. So by postponing SONA, we are drawing unnecessary energy and attention to ourselves by saying, here's something that we planned months ago. For the first time in an unprecedented fashion, we are postponing it. And yet there's no clarity. We call it transition. When the real elephant in the room is when is President Jacob Zuma is going to be statesman-like and resign, because his whole party has lost faith in him.
Now, the president of the ANC, President Cyril Ramaphosa, gave clarifications on a meeting that they have, even though he didn't give specifics of what was spoken about there. He indicated that he had a present with the state president, President Jacob Zuma, and they had fruitful discussions. As business, are you aware of what was discussed there, and did you get given inside information on what's going to happen?
So we give the president of the ANC the benefit of the doubt, that he knows best. He really gets it, that Moody's are preparing for another downgrade based on our actions. Only we can stop that downgrade to maintain what we have, so that very quickly we work on an emergency economic recovery plan, socio-economic recovery plan. He really gets it, that the investor community appreciates the momentum that he has given us. But the one challenge about momentum is that it needs to be maintained, because when you stop, you are consciously, purposefully, deliberately choosing to go backwards. We were very well received in Davos.